Hello, this video is going to be about finding an ideal place for taking your profit using the order flow. Now, if I had to point out the one single most important thing from this video, which you need to remember, then it would be this. Take profit in heavy volume area. That's the most important message from this video. The reason for that is because heavy volume areas work as a support and resistance zones. So whenever the price reaches this heavy volume area, this support or resistance zone, there is a risk that the price will turn, and that's why it's ideal place to take your profit, to quit your position before this risk arises. All right, so take your profit in heavy volume area, or just a tiny bit before the price reaches the heavy volume area, in case it turns a little bit sooner. Now for that, in intraday trading, I use a 30-minute chart, and the sell content is volumes. You can set this up in here, so the chart looks like this. Now the places where the heavy volumes were traded will be darker than the rest. So for example, in here, this is area where heavy volumes got traded. Also, for example, in here, those dark shades of gray, all right? And also, of course, the point of controls of those footprints, those high volume nodes, those are also important areas where heavy volumes got traded. So those are areas where you want to quit your trades. So for example, in this case, imagine you are in a short somewhere from here and you're looking for ideal place to quit your trade. So you look into this area to determine where the heavy volumes were. And in this case, it's pretty nicely visible. It was in here. So the ideal take profit would be somewhere in here before the price reaches this heavy volume area. Right, so this is the take profit, and the reason is that this could work as a support and it could potentially turn the price, as in this example. All right, so you want to quit the trade before it reaches the support area. Now, if heavy volume area is too close, so imagine you entered, for example, in here, and the first heavy volume area is here, which is a bit too close, then you have two options. You can consider taking your profit at the next heavy volume area. So this would be the first heavy volume area. This would be the second heavy volume area. So you would choose this one because this one is too close, or you can disregard the trade. So not enter the short if you see that the take profit would be too close, that the risk reward ratio would be too negative. It's just better not to take such a trade. All right, so you have two options: either take the profit in here or not to trade the short at all. Now let's talk about some examples so you get the feel for the ideal take profit placement. In this example, imagine you are short, for example, from here, and what you want to look for is heavy volume area to quit your short. So you went short from there, and you want to look into this area, and in here you can see that there was heavy volume area in here, those nodes, and also the overflow is darker in here, so you can tell that this is high volume area. So this is where you want to take your profit from the short trade. All right, before it reaches this high volume area, because it could potentially work as a support and the price could go upwards from it, which you don't want to risk, obviously. So you quit your trade in here. Now, in this example, imagine that you are short, for example, from this place. You are in a short trade, and now you are thinking where to take your profit. So you look into this area, you always look into the area where the price went towards your trade entry, all right, towards this resistance. So you look into this area, and in this case it's pretty clear. This is the heavy volume area, so you want to quit your trade. I would quit it one tick above the high volume node, so I would quit it in here. The reason is that this could potentially work as a support, this high volume cluster, so this could work as a support and potentially turn the price. So you want to quit your trade in here before it reaches the support. Now another example, imagine you are short from here. So you look into this pullback area where the price went towards your short, and this is the zone you're looking for. This is the potential support. This is where you want to quit your trade, one tick above this high volume node. All right, this whole area could work as a support. As you can see, it actually did. So you want to quit your trade before it reaches this support, always before it hits the heavy volume cluster. So in here, imagine you are short from there, and this is heavy volume area where you want to quit your trade, one tick above it. So there are two high volume nodes in here. Ideal place to quit the trade is in here. All right. Now actually this would also be a good place to take your profit. This is extremely strong high volume node, but this is a bit too close to the entry point. So if this is not enough for you to take a profit, then go for this one or don't take the short at all. All right. Now in here, if you are short, for example from here, then the ideal take profit would be those high volume nodes, one tick above them. Always look into the area where the price went towards your resistance. So if this was the resistance, this is where the price went towards it. So in this area, you want to search for the high volume nodes. Well, actually, in this case, there could probably be an even better place or a safer place to quit the trade. It would be this high volume node. This would be safer to quit the trade in here, not wait until it reaches this double node area. It's not too much apart, those two areas, so it would be safer to quit the trade in here. So very quick reaction. This is where you would quit your trade. So let's have a look at this example. Imagine that you are long from here, and this would be the ideal take profit, one tick below this high volume node. All right, this is where the price went towards your entry place, towards the support. So this is where you want to look for significant volume clusters or for high volume nodes like this one. So this would be the ideal take profit, one tick below it. Now let's have a look at another example. Imagine you entered a long, for example from here. The ideal place for take profit would be below this double high volume node. It would be in here. By the way, if you were short from this area, now let me draw it again so it's clearer. If you are short from this area, then the ideal take profit would be in here. This volume cluster, one tick above the high volume node preferably. So in here, right? And one more example on this picture. If you are short from here, then the ideal take profit would be this area. Those high volume nodes, especially those two. So this is where I would quit the trade. As you can see, the price continued downwards. So in this case, it would actually be better to hold the trade, but it would be safer to quit the trade in here. All right, so let's have a look at another example. Let's imagine that the price is going upwards, and in here there is a resistance zone where you go short from. So you look into this area and you search for heavy volume areas, for heavy volume cluster. What should catch your eye is this volume node and this high volume node, almost exactly at the same price level. Also, as you can see, there were pretty massive volumes created in here, so I would take the profit one tick above this high volume node. It would be in here. So if I went short from there, this would be the take profit. I wouldn't want the price to test this support created by those volumes. As you can see, eventually the price turned and reacted to those volumes, so it would be a nice move to quit the trade in here. Now, another example. Actually, there are two examples on this picture. Imagine you are long from here. You entered a long, let's say that there was some support, and you entered a long from there. You are looking for a place to quit your trade. This is a significant area, high volume node with a huge number of contracts traded there. So one tick below it, just to be safe. This is your ideal take profit. Now imagine you go short from this high volume node, because it is a strong resistance. So you go short from there, and the ideal place to take your profit would be this volume cluster. Heaviest volumes in the volume clusters traded in here, 655 contracts. So the ideal take profit would be one tick above it in here. All right, so let's have a look at another example. Imagine you are long from here, from some strong support, and this is a pretty significant volume area. Especially those two high volume nodes in here, and also you can see that there are also pretty massive volumes above them. So the ideal take profit would be one tick below this double high volume node, which would be exactly in here. Alright, so if you went long from this area, this would be the ideal place to quit your trade. Now in this case, imagine you went short from here, and the ideal place to take your profit would be this area. In this case, it's not that easy to tell, but I always like to look at the heavy volumes which got traded before aggressive buying activity, like in this case. So it would definitely be before those two high volume nodes. So the ideal take profit in this case would be in here. All right. In this example, it's not as clear, not as simple, but you gotta pick a place for a take profit, right? So this would be my pick. Now imagine you caught the high, you went short, and the ideal place for take profit in this case would be definitely somewhere before this heavy volume area. As you can see, there are heavy volume nodes pretty close to each other. There is triple high volume node in here, so my best pick would be take profit in here. Alright, this would be the ideal take profit for the short from here. Now imagine that you went long from here, then the ideal take profit in this scenario, in this case, would be before this area, preferably before the price reaches this double high volume node. So in this case, the ideal take profit for the long trade would be in here, because the price would potentially react to this double high volume node, to this volume cluster, and go short from there. By the way, you can also often see those volume clusters on the volume profile. In here, this is the volume cluster. You can also use my volume profile pack to determine where to quit your trade using volume clusters on volume profile. The ideal tool for that would be the flexible volume profile. So let's have a look at the last example. Imagine you went short from here. Then the best take profit would be either in this area, so in here, because of those volumes and also those heavy volumes, or the second take profit, those two high volume nodes, one tick before them, so in here. Alright, so this would be take profit number 1. This would be take profit number 2. As you can see, the price didn't really react to the take profit number 1, and it reached the take profit number 2, and it reacted from there. But it would be safer to quit your position, or at least part of your position in here, because of those heavy volumes traded there. Alright, so that's for the take profit video. So always remember the basic rule of all this. You always want to take your profit before the price reaches a heavy volume area. That's the most important lesson from this video. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where I'll talk a little bit more about take profits and about quitting your trades.